Hey everybody, it's me, Super Paul Games. Welcome to a brand new LP. It's called Sweethearts. I've never played it before. I think I might have loved Elliot the second that I saw him. Or at the very least, I knew he was going to be someone special in my life. I just didn't understand how big of a role he would play. It's like he had something special in him that I saw but didn't recognize right away. A spark of something more. I've known him almost my entire life. We went to daycare, elementary, middle school, and even high school together. I can't even remember a time in my life when he was not around. How could I have guessed that I would meet the love of my life so soon? Who would have thought that the one person who made my life worth living would be the one who could cause me the most pain? I guess it's true, you do hurt the ones you love. I love him with all my might. I truly believe that we are meant to be together forever, but recently I've been wondering, is love enough? I work at a well-established law firm at the heart of the Big Apple. The salary is generous and so are the benefits. Sometimes work can help me escape from my thoughts and troubles, but today isn't one of those days. Being a secretary for a well-known lawyer is demanding work that usually leaves me exhausted, but satisfied afterwards. Today I'm just plain old exhausted, and the workday is still far from over. I try my best to get my head in the game, but time passes so slowly that I'm easily distracted. Maybe with a little effort I could make it through the day. But I know that my plan failed when my boss arrives at my desk.
Having a rough day?
You think so? I asked, dodging the question. What would make you think that?
Maybe the fact that 3 of my phone calls were directed to the wrong office, that you sighed over 30 times in the last 3 minutes, and because it's 10 minutes past my afternoon break, and I still haven't received my coffee.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I've been distracted lately, that I've been messing everything up, and I'll make this up to you.
No need to worry, it's quite alright, but I would like to know what's been bothering you.
Well, it's like a little personal.
It's alright, you can trust me. If you can't trust your boss, who can you trust?
Honestly, it's been a long time since I confided with anyone about my problems. I was grateful for anyone who would listen, and I might have fallen for it if I didn't detect something lurking in his eyes besides kindness. You know he wants to get with this hot coochie action. This was the thing I hated most about this job. I was constantly in close contact with Chris. He was the one who got me this job when I had to drop out of college to take care of my ailing mother. Back then he was my boyfriend, but now...
Is it Elliot? Trouble in paradise?
He's not even able to keep the slight smirk off his face. I shifted back a little. I was livid. Thank you, Mr. Lawrence, but I like to keep my personal business and professional life, like, separate. Not telling your dumbass.
Certainly, Miss Michael, just as long as your personal problems don't continue to interfere with your work.
Guilt stabbed me in the heart. I haven't exactly been doing my best work lately. If Chris was not my boss, I might have been fired already.
I expect my coffee on my desk in 5 minutes.
I can't help but feel a little guilty for the way I talked to him. Even after I broke it off and went back to Elliot, Chris has been nothing but cordial towards me. It's more than I deserve. Maybe I was just being too sensitive and overreacted. I don't know, if you sensed in his voice, kind of toying with you, trouble in paradise, it's understandable if you'd be a little sensitive, and he's your ex after all. Chris had been a very good boyfriend to me. He always treated me like a queen when we were together, and I never wanted for anything. But I was still in love with Elliot, and I couldn't be the woman he deserved. When my mother got sick, I needed money to take care of her and my sisters. Chris was the one who got me this job with a higher pay than normal plus benefits. It allowed me to keep my family together and to see my mother through her health issues and my sisters to college. I owe so much to him. I owe my mother's health and my family's survival to him, but I repaid him by leaving him for Elliot. By rights, Chris should have been furious, or at least fired me, but instead he let me keep my job and continue supporting my family. I owe him more than I could adequately describe, but that still doesn't make Elliot and my relationship an open discussion. Sighing, I cleared the paperwork from my desk and went back to the break room. I deserved more than his remark about his coffee. Even now, he is still much too nice to me. I didn't deserve it. Apparently, we went to the park instead of getting the coffee. It's the beginning of winter and very cold outside. Snow lingers around, smothering the trees. The trees are like, I can't breathe at all. Pavements, yards, and roofs alike. It is amazing that I was able to find a bench devoid of snow, let alone see others playing around in this frigid weather. I see kids and adults having snowball fights while others were figure skating on an ice pond. A few were seated on benches and glancing around as I was. The happiness on their faces was enough to warm my spirit. Warm my spirit with your faces, ugly children! Warm them! This park, this quiet, this cold is perfect for me after a hard day's night. I mean work, especially with the week I have been having. The days seem especially long and tedious lately. I don't know what to do anymore about my situation, but coming to this park often helps me think. It has also been the place where Elliot and I first met. We met under the smothered tree. You didn't tell me then either. You humans are bastards. Fuck you, tree. I will make you into paper. Our mothers introduced us. They have been best friends since college, but lost touch after graduating. They happened to meet again several years later at the very same park, and ever since then they have been determined to remain close to each other. Literally, they don't stand more than 2 inches apart. When they poop, it's very awkward. Once they realized that they both had children around the same age, they decided that we would be perfect playmates. It was their fantasy that we would meet. They have very lame fantasies. I hope our children meet. Oh, me too. Became friends, grow up, and eventually fall in love and get married. Well, never mind, that fantasy is very demanding. Boy, were they wrong. Almost 5 minutes after knowing each other, we became enemies. Mortal enemies. Damn you, Elliot. I honestly don't remember how it started. 1 minute we were fine, silent, but I guess we were both a little shy at that moment and didn't know how to react to meeting a stranger. We both were only children, and I was known to get quiet around new people. Guess what? I'm that way too. I just poked myself in the throat when I said that. Oh, God, I didn't need to do that twice in a row. It was uncomfortable at first, but we got over it like kids do. Everything was going as smooth as possible. Then the next thing I know, sand was thrown. Sand! Toys were scattered, and we were suddenly brawling. You're going down, Elliot. I don't know who threw the first blow or why, but ever since then, we really couldn't stand each other, despite our mother's best efforts. At the very least, they got us to stop wrestling on the floor like animals. Ironic thing, when you became a couple, they'd start wrestling on the floor like animals again, if you know what I mean. But we did resort to other methods of attack. In pre-K, Elliot would steal my drawings and crayons while I threw my dolls at him. Suck doll, child! He would yank at my hair during nap time, and I would hide his favorite toys just to get back at him. I would tell him his mother had thrown his toys away because she didn't love him. The ultimate vengeance. Recess was a free-for-all. As a matter of the elements were constantly being tossed around. Whether it was sand, snow, water, leaves, it was wartime at recess, and I don't take prisoners. Our classmates loved every minute of it. For some reason, we could not stop fighting no matter what anyone did. We were really brats to each other. Our parents, who got along perfectly, told us directly that they were not having the same type of nonsense in middle school. Our mothers had given up on us being best friends, but they at least hoped we would stop being as horrible to each other when we grew up. We agreed to a temporary ceasefire. We signed an armistice at dawn aboard a train. I did not trust him, though, because I thought he was secretly rearming. And after all, we were a little older now and more mature by then, and we had devised new methods of torture while still trying to be civil. Waterboarding! At least in front of our parents. Middle school brought a new change in our relationship that would last forever. It started over a boy named Sean. Sean was my first crush. Every time I laid eyes on him, I got wet in the vagina. I would turn into a complete mess. Being around him made my heart beat too fast. Oh, angina! No, vagina. My tongue clumsy and my IQ drop. He was my hopeless crush throughout middle school. Even when the day came that he finally asked me out, I was ecstatic. But my joy was short-lived. We had been dating for maybe a month and a half when I walked in on a conversation Sean was having with his best friends. He was bragging about how many females he dated and telling his friends that I was just his next conquest. It was only then that I finally realized that he had been playing the part of Prince Charming for his friends while laughing behind my back. I will never forget that day. My whole body felt numb and my face burned. I had never felt so humiliated in my life. The whole classroom seemed to be in on it. I wanted to move, but my legs were frozen. I wanted to speak, but my throat was parched. Water began to pool around my eyes. It was not a kiddie pool. Kids tried to jump into my face and swim, but it was not that kind of pool. When Sean finally noticed me standing there, he didn't even have the decency to look ashamed. He made several loud remarks, mocking my feelings in front of everyone. What a bastard. I just stood there like an idiot while several of my classmates laughed and joked around at my expense. It was just as if my heart had been ripped out of my chest, tossed on the ground, and ran over by a steamroller. I was devastated. Just then, when the first tears were about to burst, Elliot arose from his seat and socked Sean right in the mouth. He went tumbling to the floor. All we could see was flailing legs and raised fists. The classroom buzzed with action. Wild calls and cheers erupted everywhere. Elliot, the youngest out of 4 rowdy boys, pulverized Sean, who was a lightweight in no real competition. The fight was legendary, and it followed Elliot to high school and even to college. Must have gotten to a small college. He, from then on, got a reputation of being a heart-heart. Oh, not a heart-heart. Oh, that's the most devastating of all. He's a heart-heart. Which he really wasn't, actually, but he let the rumors lie in his favor. None of the kids at school were brave enough to tell the principal what really happened, so they all kept their mouths shut. Elliot received a 7-day suspension and was lucky not to be expelled. But before Elliot could be hauled off to the principal's office, he suddenly grabbed my hand and squeezed it tightly. He didn't let go. He never let go. He's still holding on right now. Aw. Anyone who wants to pick on her will have to go through me. Only I'm allowed to mess with her, understand? And then he punched me in the throat 3 times. No one said a word. I mostly gasped prayer. I remember even after all these years how hot and sweaty my hands felt. I could practically hear my heart trying to burst out of my chest embarrassingly. I believe that Elliot could probably hear it too. After that, school returned to some semblance of peace. No one mentioned the incident around me, and especially not around Elliot when he returned to school. Sean made sure to scurry around the corner whenever he saw Elliot or me walking by. All was right in the world. After the incident, which our moms enjoyed, being hopeless romantics as they were, I'm glad your child beat up someone for my child. Elliot started to act differently around me. He started sporting boners. I don't know if maybe he was still stunned by his actions or what, but he no longer played pranks on me or taunted me like before. Oh, he would still tease me every once in a while, but it was more like how one friend would tease another. My appreciation of Elliot soared through the sky, and while I wouldn't call him my best friend, he was a good partner in crime. We began to tease each other and became more of a unit than warring rivals. Allies, I see. The change was sudden but not awkward. It was surprising how easily we began to socialize with each other. Some of our classmates were stunned, but shrugged it off. By then I had something in Elliot that I had never really had before, a real relationship. Our fighting almost completely ceased to exist. We were fine around each other, and our parents couldn't be happier with the change in our relationship. Occasionally Elliot would stop what he was doing to look at me, with a confused expression on his face when he thought I wouldn't notice. It was around this time that he started to fall in love with me, but I wouldn't know that until many years later. It wasn't until high school that we finally started dating. I had dated a few boys after Sean, but none of them compared to Elliot. Once we started dating, he showed me a completely new side of him. His buttocks? That only I was privileged to. Botox privilege it is. He became my best friend and my sweetheart. We were practically glued at the hip. It never fails to amaze me that even though we started out on the wrong foot, we were still able to fall deeply, deeply in love. Balls deep in love with each other. In college we had a major breakup that took months of separation to fix, but I still knew that there was no one else I wanted to be with more than Elliot. I just wish things were the same now as it was back then. I wish that occasionally I could go back to that time where everything seemed to be perfect. Christmas passed and I ended up spending it with my family and friends. It was nice to see them and spend quality time together, but my heart ached still, longing for Elliot. I spent New Year's Eve alone this year. Usually on this day, Elliot and me would spend it together and make new vows to each other every New Year. Last year we promised to always love and respect each other. The year before that we promised to laugh and to comfort each other whenever humanly possible. But this year, there was nothing. Elliot was simply too busy. Elliot is a late-night radio host. He usually works evenings and overnight shifts. For the past 2 years, he's been getting pretty popular. And now he's on a 6-month tour to help promote his radio station and build up his fan base. It was the longest time we have ever been apart, and I, for one, was not enjoying it. Neither was Elliot. But because his company really needed the exposure and publicity, he reluctantly agreed. He's already gone for the last 3 months. He's not due back until late March at the earliest. He missed Christmas, New Year's, and now he would miss Valentine's Day. I cannot even describe the ache I feel with him so far away from me. Every day seems so dull and pointless without him. I have no idea how I'm going to last the next 3 months without him. I have a brand new appreciation for people who successfully have long-distance relationships. I don't know how they do it. I've been near or around Elliot nearly every day since we met. Even when we were squabbling as children, squabble-bobble, he was always nearby. It was always annoying when I was younger, but now he is very important. A very important part of my life indeed. I'd do anything just to get him back. The days and nights are passing by so slowly that I can barely tell one from another. Is this day or night? Here's a little clue. When the sun is up and is bright, probably day. I work to keep my mind off of Elliot, but the meaningless tasks only help for a short time. I try to occupy myself and keep my spirit up. I push small children. I almost said Paul children. Don't push children named Paul into the snow. Applaud them for their Paulness. Well done! I am appalled, but other children are not as appalling as you. Almost ended up good. But the closer it gets to February, the more I realize that I'll be spending another holiday without Elliot. Chris has kept his distance from me, and for that I am grateful. I can't help but feel a little wary of him whenever I was at work. I just now want to be able to clock in, clock out, and return to the comfort of my home. February slowly creeps forward, and I am so frustrated and exhausted that I can hardly think straight. Sometimes I think curved, even. My work has been terrible lately due to my inability to concentrate, but Chris tries to overlook it. I know that I've been doing a horrible job. He was well within his rights to fire me. I am just dreading the day it'll finally happen. Sigh. This was no good. I'm hopeless without Elliot. Oh. Today was another long and depressing morning. I don't know how I'm going to make it through the day. I can't concentrate at all, and it's showing. I hate being this needy, this desperate, this lonely. I don't want to act like one of those lovesick high school girls, but I feel like a piece of my soul was gone. I want to see Elliot. I want to see him smile. I want to hear his laugh and smell his cologne. I put my nose in his pits sometimes when he's around and smell his pit cologne. I want to hold his hand while we're walking down the street after a terrific date. I want to argue over movies while throwing popcorn at each other. I love Fight Club! You're a douche! Suck popcorn! I want to have picnics in the park. I want to go out to dinner together. I want to dance at parties with him. I want to snuggle in his arms, warm at night when I fall asleep. I want him, and I want him now, and there's nothing I can do about it. I hate this. It's so frustrating, so aggravating, so. Before I knew it, I was crying right at my desk like a baby. Were there a lot of babies who had your job before you that cried at this desk? This is so humiliating.
Rekia, what's the matter?
This is so embarrassing. I really didn't need this. It's bad enough that I'm crying at work, but to cry in front of Chris is even worse. I try to speak and tell him that I'm okay, but the words won't form. I'm truly pathetic right now.
Please don't cry.
I try to calm down and settle myself, but it's as if a dam has finally been released. I cry for a few minutes more, despite my best efforts. Afterwards, I feel like a helpless infant, and Chris is looking at me in a way that puts my fragile defenses on guard.
I think it's time that you leave Elliot and come back to me.
Whoa, dude, whoa!
I mean, it's honestly... Is he honestly making you happy? All I see him do is making you miserable. Don't you see that?
Dude, can't you respect she's in a relationship? You got no class. Chris, how can you say that?
Can you seriously see yourself with a man who disappears for half a year and barely has time to call?
He calls when he can. He just works late nights. By the time he gets off asleep... Wait, he gets off, I'm asleep. By the time I get off, he's starting work. He can't help that he's busy. I protested, feeling the divine need to defend him against all accusations.
Oh, that makes it okay? I would call you every day if I had to. I certainly wouldn't leave you for months at times like he does.
I honestly don't know what to say right now. Is this really happening, or am I dreaming?
Break up with him and marry me, Reiki. I'll give you the home you want. And we can have as many kids as you want. I'll blow the shit out of that vagina, if you know what I mean with kids. You'll never have to go home alone again and cry like you do with Elliot. You'll never have to be lonely and sad again. Say you'll marry me, Rekia, and I'll give you everything that you've ever dreamed.
I did want to be married and have kids. It was no secret to Chris or Elliot or Chris Elliot. Chris Elliot, he knew. That picture that Chris was painting sounded perfect, but a life without Elliot? Even a perfect one wasn't a life I really wanted at all. Even this misery and loneliness is more than the nothingness of being without Elliot. I tried being without him once before. It just didn't work. I just didn't work. It wasn't right. He wasn't Elliot, and Elliot is really all I needed to be happy. I looked at Chris with new eyes. I'd stolen them from the baby who was crying here earlier. Then I shook my head and smiled. Chris, I can't.
But why? All he does is make you miserable and lonely. How can he possibly be the man for you?
Oh my goodness! How can I explain it to him? How can I tell him that back when we hated each other, and even now when the thought of Elliot can literally bring me tears, I would still rather have all those memories with him than have happy ones without him? We may have started as enemies, but we became friends and eventually lovers, and frenemies somewhere in between. I couldn't separate myself from him now, even if I wanted to. He had my heart. I could not get it back. Even if I could, he might have hid it under the mattress. I don't know where it is. And you know what? I wouldn't want to get it back. Even now, I would rather stay in this personal hell of mine than feel the true hell of not having Elliot at all. Even in that moment, I knew that I would always wait patiently for Elliot to return, no matter how long he took. He's my love, and he's worth it. I could tell him all these things, but I'm not sure if he could truly understand. Chris had never loved someone as I love Elliot. Even though we were dating, Chris always had stars in his eyes. He always thought I was perfect, that we were perfect. He never saw my flaws. In a way, he could never truly love me or know me because of it. Elliot knows all of my flaws, and I know all of his. He's seen me when I was happy, and he's seen me when I was sad. He's been with me when I was right or wrong, when I was a pleasure to be around or a hard pill to swallow, and then I swallowed him. He was there. He stayed and loved me through it all. That's true love. The ability to see the person's positives and negatives, and then deciding to love that person anyway. Chris sees what he wants to see and decides to ignore all the rest. But Elliot sees the true heart of me. And that's the reason I can't let him go. I wipe the tears from my eyes and decide that it's time to get myself together. Both for my sake and for Chris. We've both been bound in a way. He is bound to me because of his fantasies of me being his perfect woman, and I was bound to him because of my guilt. It's time for both of us to be free. And with that, I jumped out the window and flapped my arms and flew to Antarctica. Chris, I quit. I can't continue working for you. If you still have feelings for me, I can't keep you thinking that there's more between us than there is. I just can't.
You're choosing him over me? And this job? Well, what? Where will you get another job that'll pay this well? Why are you willing to go so far from him?
I don't know where my next job will come from, and it honestly doesn't matter. I've been taking advantage of your feelings for too long. Guilt's been the reason I stayed here, even though I felt it was the best I left years ago. Now I'm letting it go so I can forgive myself, and so you can move on. You're a good man, Chris. You need to find someone who completes you like Elliot completes me. I feel this miserable right now because he mistreats me, but because I love and not because he mistreats me, but because I love and miss him. I wouldn't leave him for anything in the world right now. I need him. I hope that one day you can forgive me for not being as good to you as I should have. I'm sorry that I took advantage of your kindness. I hope for the best for you. And as for Elliot, don't worry about him. He's my angel, and no one can mess with him but me. And suddenly I giggled, feeling light and free. I didn't need the stress of a guilty conscience towards Chris anymore, and he didn't need a constant reminder of what we used to be. I was going to be stronger for Elliot, because if what we had was really true love, then we could endure these absences and bits of loneliness. After all, what were a few months within a lifetime together? The day I quit working for Chris happened to be the best event to return me to my former self. In one moment I was free of guilt and anxiety, and my love for Elliot seemed stronger than ever. Now I feel energized for the first time in months. I took a couple of weeks after quitting to get myself together. I had been feeling really depressed since Elliot left, so I used those days to gather my strength. While I was still not as strong as I would have liked, I'm still at least closer to my usual self. I also decided to do freelance photography of kitties, like I did in college, because everyone likes a nice kitty. I'm glad to say that my passion for it has not waned, even if my skills have somewhat dulled. Getting back into my hobby really sparked my life back into my days. I can't even read. I was excited to start building my clientele. Kitties came from far and wide to get their adorable pictures with little bow ties and top hats. Instead of being sad about being taken away from Elliot, I decided to be thankful that I had such wonderful memories to dwell on. So what if he missed a few holidays? We had more than our fair share of holidays together. Chances were that we would miss a few together eventually. Today was Valentine's Day, and before I knew it, I was cleaning my small apartment, making a luxurious meal, setting the table. I almost bopped myself on the head when I realized that Elliot would not be here today, like usual. Still, I continued cooking the elaborate meal that I had planned a year ago and humming a little. Even if Elliot couldn't be here, I could at least invite my mother over for Valentine's Day. I'm still sad to not spend this day with Elliot, but life goes on, and even if half of my heart happens to be several states away, I had just finished lighting the candles when the doorbell rang. Is Mom here? She didn't even mention that she might come over. I guess I don't have to call her after all. I straightened up a bit and fussed over my hair before walking to the door. It just wouldn't do for my mom to see me looking homey for Valentine's Day. I smiled and swung the door open. My jaw dropped. Hey, gorgeous. Elliot? What are you doing here? Well, I decided that I missed one too many holidays and I couldn't leave my princess alone for Valentine's Day, now could I? It was just like Elliot to make me feel special with just one sentence. I was so grateful and appreciative to see him that it took all my strength not to cry. But Elliot knew me through thick and thin, and good times and bad. He understood perfectly. Happy Valentine's Day, princess. Oh, Elliot. Finally, my angel is home. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. Oh man, I should have uploaded this on Valentine's Day. Either way, thanks for playing, says the author. I don't normally do kinetic novels, but I like this story. So thank you for watching, everybody, and I'll see you all next time.